Well, you just made your lesson plans for the week. You're feeling pretty good because you watched and did the little tips and tricks that you learned from the video about lesson planning. You used the 3 templates. You used the clip, the cubby, and the crate method for organizing. And you're ready for the week ahead. But if you're like me, you're driving to school or it's 2 o'clock in the morning the night before, and in your head, you're kind of going over the lesson. What does it look like? What exactly do I need to say? How is that kid going to react with that? Am I going to have to do a little something extra here? And your head just starts to spin. Well, today I am going to give you yet another template to help you plan that out so you can free up your mind and work smarter, not harder. Okay, let's get going. I think you're going to love this. Here we go. Hi, my name is Angie, and I was in the classroom for 25 years, and I spent a lot of time driving to school thinking, oh, okay, we're going to do that lesson, and how's that going to look, and what do I need to do, and blah, blah, blah. My brain would just spin. But really, when you're thinking of your lesson and how it's going to all go down, it's pretty simple. And today, you're getting a little template to help you plan that out. So you're not waking up in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning thinking, oh, what do I need to do? What do we do? You know how it starts spinning? Or when you're driving to school? So let's jump over and go through the steps of a good lesson. I think this is really going to help you and your stress level when it comes to delivering your lessons. Are you ready? Here we go. Okay, again, if you didn't catch the video on lesson planning where we used the templates and we started with some assessments, our objectives, our materials, things like that, make sure you watch that. And then let's go ahead and take a look at this little worksheet for you that I did. And this is just to help you figure out what you need to do for your lesson. And I am going to step you through it step by step using a real life example, okay? So let's say that you've made your weekly plan and you are looking at the assessment for the week. And, well, let's just go ahead and look at the assessment for the week, shall we? Let's look at the assessment for the week. Here it is right here. And you're looking at this for your students and you're thinking, sheesh, when they get to this one, this is going to be tricky for them because we haven't done a lot about environments and things like that. When with the lessons during the week, this one's kind of a little bit weak. So I really want to focus on this. And what can I do for that? Well, let's go ahead and take a look. So in your mind, after you've been teaching a while, this is kind of like in your teacher brain and you go through it mentally. But honestly, sometimes when I had a subject or a lesson that I felt a little uncomfortable with or that I had tried before and it was a complete failure, a lot of times it was because I didn't do some of the things that are here. Let's check it out. So I would just give my lesson a little title and maybe I would write animals and their environments. Okay, so I knew that's what I wanted. And really this objective is knowing how to read this sentence and then look at the pictures and get information from the pictures. That's really what I want them to do. So I would write that here. The assessment, I would just write end of chapter test, question number 9, okay? And materials needed. Well, the series doesn't really provide me with anything. In fact, remember what I said? It's kind of weak. So what can I do to help my students through this? And which students are going to have a little extra struggle with this. That's what I want to focus on. So what materials can I do? And how can I teach it? How can I teach it and demonstrate? How can we do it together as a class? And then how can they practice this independently so when it comes to the test, no problemo, they can do it so easy, okay? And then formative assessment, how are they doing as we're going? And how am I going to close it up? When I taught, what I usually found where I failed was the I do, we do, you do. Usually when it failed, I just skipped the I do, we do, or did them very poorly, and just threw them right into the you do, okay? So let's take a look. What I did, let's close this up. What I did is I thought, now, during my morning message is a super good time that I can give some whole group instruction and I can do some modeling. I could do the I do. So what I did is I just made up this little printable. Where does a blank live? Does that sound familiar from the assessment? Yes. And then I also know that my students need some more reading skills. A blank lives in the blank. All right. I know those are words that are going to be on the assessment. And so I took those sentences and I put them here. And then I used the animals that they're going to be coming in contact with on the assessment, as well as their environments. Because remember, my objective has to do with reading the names of the animals and thinking about the question and their environment, looking for pictures. Do I have pictures? I do. So what I would do is I would make that up, and during my morning meeting, I would show them these sentences, and I would do this in front of them, and I would be like, this was a first grade activity, so it'd say, first graders, I have some pieces here that I want you to pay extra good attention to, and I want you to notice that they have some color coding. Who can tell me what they are seeing? And they're going to raise their hand and they're going to say, well, some have blue and underlined, some have green, some have pink, and things like that. All right. So they're going to make some of those observations. And I'm going to say yes. And what we're going to do is we're going to build some sentences, and then we are going to take those sentences, read them, and find a picture that best goes with that sentence. All right? So our reading was about porcupines and giraffes and elephants and things like that. So that's what this has to do about. So this says, where does a live? Notice that's a question, isn't it? This is a question. Everybody, what does this say? Excellent. Let's say it one more time together. Where does a exactly? So let's build that sentence. Do you know what color this is? Put it in your hand. Let it go. Exactly. It's orange. So I am going to put my orange pieces over here, and I am going to build this sentence. Let's match it. Where live, this is way over here, isn't it? Where does a blank live? Now, let's start with, Jessie, you pick the animal. We have porcupine. Raise your hand if you are noticing something here. Talk to your neighbor. Talk to your partner. What are you noticing? Ready to go. Class? Who has an idea? Jessie. Yeah, this is pink. This is pink. Do you think that maybe my sentence is like this? And teachers, I would do this in a pocket chart or on the magnetic board, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to move this over a little bit. Where does a porcupine live? All right. Where does a porcupine live? You wanted to do porcupine? Let's do porcupine. Now we have a blue. We have there's that. This is a period. Down here, looks like we have a space here. We have an and. Wait a second. There's no and up here, but let's set that aside. Lives. There's some extra ones. In. A porcupine lives in the... Where does a porcupine live? Let's see. Put it in your hand. Where does a porcupine live? Let it go. Good. Now I'm hearing two different things here. I'm hearing woods and I'm hearing forest. Let's take a look at our words and see what we can find. Could this be the word woods or forest? No. Forest. Woods. Thumbs up or thumbs down? No. Thumbs up or thumbs down? No. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Some of you have your thumbs up and some of you have your thumbs down. Tom, tell me why your thumb is down. Because you said woods. Okay. Woods. What was the other word that people said, Tom? Forest. What's the difference between woods and forest? The woods. Okay. Everybody give Tom a yay. Yay. Tom, that is some really good reasoning. At his house, they say woods. And Jessie, at your house, they say forest. Is it the same thing? Sometimes we can say the same thing using different words. Isn't that so great? Okay, so we have forest. Lives in the forest. Just like that. But now, first graders, I have, and see, I would be out of the way. I have some pictures. Thumbs up or thumbs down, a forest. Thumbs up or thumbs down, a forest. Put in your hand what you think that is. Ready? Let it go. I only had two people. Martin, what is that? You're right, Martin. Everybody give Martin a woohoo. Woo-hoo! Savannah. That's a savanna. All right. How about this? A forest. Exactly. Okay. So can you see how this lesson is going? So we would practice this probably for a couple days during our morning message. The more we practice, the better we're going to get. Then guess what? I would put this into a station. We talked about stations in the other video about lesson planning, and this would be one of the stations I would put in my skills station because I've modeled it twice during morning message. It goes into the stations. They can practice with it, or I would use it during my small group time, maybe with some of my kiddos that had a little extra issue with some of the words, building the sentences, pointing to the words, figuring out the pictures. Who needs more on the objective? Who will not do well on the assessment for this question? Okay. And so I could put it at the stations and I could put it at the small group. You can see how they could use this over and over and over. And what they could do after they're done is they could take these little pieces, tape them on a piece of paper, and draw their own picture with their own porcupine in the forest. And with the picture, we had, with the assessment, we had the dolphin in the ocean, right? Where does the dolphin live? And so we can make sure that we really stress that one as well. Now, my picture is not the same as the assessment, but we are going to work on it so that the students know that, oh, this represents ocean. What else represents ocean? Oh, a view of the top side of the ocean. Usually there's a little sunshine there with big old waves on it. Oh, that's an ocean too. You're right. It's not a lake. Because like where I'm from, the kids are going to say, that's a lake, because many of them have never been to the ocean. So you have to kind of prep them for that as well. Their culture will determine how they take the test. And part of your job as a teacher is to make sure that their culture doesn't get in the way of them showing understanding during a test. Okay? All right. So let's jump back down here. So we did the I do, we did the we do, and we did the you do, which will be either the test or they can do it individually with this printable, making their own book or whatever. Now, formative assessment. Many times with formative assessments, it's just you observing the child. Are they understanding that this word is dolphin? Are they understanding that first sound? If they're not, I would be writing some notes to myself. Ooh, Jesse is saying that D is a B. He's not even understanding the first initial sound of that word. We need to really start working on that. Tom knows all of the animals and their habitats and their environments, and he's telling us about dingoes in Australia. All right, I need to do something more with him. And then the close. So sometimes, like I said, you could make a book, and a close would be, let's make this, let's put it into a book and let's read it during sharing time sometime during the day. All right. And then have that again as part of a station that you can do next week. I hope those tips help you to kind of formulate what a good lesson looks like in your mind. It's really not that hard, especially if you begin with the end in mind. What do they need to know? How will they have to demonstrate their knowledge? What objectives? The I do, we do, you do steps, make sure you get those down. And how are you going to be assessing them as you go? And if you see gaps, how are you going to record it? If you watched the previous video on lesson plans, go ahead, and if somebody's struggling or they need enrichment, put it in the small group area. Just jot it down so that your activities are also helping with that small group instruction, because honestly, that small group instruction, that is where the magic happens. That is just the key to your students' learning. All the other stuff is like a build up and a scaffolding to that experience for the small group experience. All right. I hope you liked today. If you did, if you found some value, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing so you don't miss videos like this one that show you step by step how-tos on how to make your classroom better. The more you practice this process, the easier it's going to get. And pretty soon, you will take this piece of paper and guess what? You'll be like, I don't need that, because it'll be right in your head. Okay? Remember, the creator of the universe loves you, and I think you're pretty amazing too. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.